Wednesday, June the 19th. Lake level is just a little under 917. It's actually come down a little bit. And in some areas of Springfield this past weekend, it had 8 to 10 inches of rain. But we didn't get the rain all around the lake. So the main flow of water came in from the James. I think the James River came up about 8 foot there at Galena. But they've been pulling the lake pretty hard, so it hasn't come up much at all. It's actually, like I say, been going down there, catching up with it now. Now they're, the water temperature, it's right in the high 70s, and 79, 80 first thing in the morning, and it's getting up to about 82, 83 degrees. Somebody wants to play. But a lot of different things going on in the lake. I was starting to get a pretty good bite going on up in the James on a deep crankbait and a football jig and Carolina rig. And I hadn't been back up there yet since all this influx of water. It was kind of just getting right from the rain that we had 2 or 3 weeks ago. So there's probably a lot more debris up there again, and a lot more trash coming down the river. But as far as down lake, I've spent a couple days from Shell Knob up to Big M, and I've been down by the dam and around Kimbling, and the bite kind of seems to be the same all over the place. I'm catching them on drop shot and football jig. The football jig fish don't seem to be that deep. They're anywhere from 18 to as deep as 25. And the drop shot fish seem to be getting out a little bit deeper each day. I'm catching them 25 to 35 right now, down by the dam. But it seemed like up there in Shell Knob, Campbell Point to Big M, the drop shot fish, football jig fish, everything was a little bit shallower. And I have had a couple good days on top water. There's been a little bit of a topwater bite in the morning, but the sun, if the sun comes up pretty quick, it's short-lived. But I had a day this week where it was overcast and cloudy, and we were up in the upper White River and had a real good topwater day. And most of those fish came off of deeper bluff ends, the main lake points going into the bigger creeks. And a little bit on the topwaters, I'm always telling you, what kind of topwater baits I'm throwing, but I'm going to show you a couple things that I do to my topwaters to make them a little bit more efficient. Now, I usually throw a regular size spook, and the store-bought flukes, see, they don't come with any split rings over here on the hooks. The hook hangers are real rigid. And what happens a lot of times, you see how that hook can't move forward, and then it goes sideways and gets in a bind. Well, I think what happens a lot of times when you get a fish hooked and he's jumping, or when you're fighting coming back to the boat, when that bait gets lodged up like that, it gets a little bit of leverage and the fish can get rid of the bait. So what we like to do is we'll take them hook hangers off and actually put a split ring in there, so the hook's got nothing restricting it, can go completely around. And I also take off the factory hooks, and I like to put on a little bit lighter wire hook. I'll still use a number 2 hook, but these hooks I've got on this one are the Excaliburs, like what comes on a fat-free shad. And I always use a split ring up on the front. It helps the bait walk a little bit better. Now, kind of the same thing on the, this is a jointed redfin, and they come with what we call a saltwater hook. They're not too bad of hooks, but the split rings that they've got on them way too big. See, they won't even go through the hook hangers without getting in a bind. And they're a little bit heavier. So what I like to do on those is take those off and put a thinner diameter split ring, so the split rings got nothing restricting it going through the hook hanger. The hooks are nice and free. And I use the same hook as I do on the spook, a number 2 Excalibur. And it's a lighter hook, so with the redfin, it helps keep the bait up on top a little bit better. And also, I take the factory split ring off the front and put a thinner one on. You wouldn't think it makes much difference, but just by putting a little thinner diameter split rings, it lightens the bait up and it helps you keep the bait up on top. Now, another redfin that I throw quite a little bit is a straight redfin instead of a jointed one. I know I haven't talked about this too much on the fishing reports, but this one actually walks a lot better than the jointed one. And it's got 3 hooks, where the jointed redfin's only got 2, so I think my hookup ratio a lot of times is a little bit better. Now this one you can't throw quite as far as the jointed one, but still works good. And it's got a little bit, it's got number 4 hooks on it. And the same thing, I put the smaller split rings on, and I changed the hooks, put good hooks on it. Every once in a while on a redfin, we will use a feather. And there's days, and what I'll do is you can either buy a hook and put, with the feathers already on it. What I do, I go to the fly shop and buy some of this material and just put it onto my own hooks. But there's a lot of times when the fish are swatting at a bait where the feather can make all the difference in the world. And the same with like on any kind of topwater bait, like a popar, there's days that it will make a difference. So it seems like if I'm getting short strikes, I'll pick up a redfin that's got a feather on it. And this also, when it gets wet, kind of helps work as a rudder as well. It'll hold the back of the bait down, therefore keeping the front up where it can walk a little bit better. Now something else I throw this time of year too, this is a long A bomber, and this one's custom painted by Fall Creek Lures. Now this one has probably got the best walk on a steady retrieve as far as being consistent, where the redfins, you got to mess with them quite a bit to get them to go side to side. This thing it's got a perfect retrieve, but it doesn't stay up on top as well as the redfins. But I'm finding that's a good thing in some cases. This past week I had a guy throwing it behind me, and he was catching fish on the long A when I wasn't catching them on top. What you can do with this is work it like a wake bait, and it'll go down 6 to 8 inches, sometimes even a foot. And it's for some of them fish that when they're kind of slapping at the redfin and won't totally commit to it, it seems like you pick up this long A and catch those fish. And he does an awesome job painting them. Whoops. And the only place that I know that you can get these that are all rigged up with good hooks and ready to go is over at Sportsman Factory Outlet there in Springfield. So, and a jerkbait is a bait that a lot of us stop throwing it in the spring. I don't think the fish ever stop biting it. I think people just stop throwing it. Now, we'll work it a lot different. Like I say, we'll work this like a redfin, but you can also work it like a jerkbait, but instead of letting it set, just a continuous jerking motion back to the boat, and you'll be surprised at the fish that you can catch on it after the topwater bite has slowed down. Now, we'll get into some more of the Fall Creek Lures on his custom paint jobs when we get into the square bills. He does some awesome jobs on the square bills as well. But a lot of the baits that I've been catching them on this past week or so, I've been throwing a pig sticker football jig, which a jewel or even a chompers will work. But the colors that's been working real good for me is a green pumpkin with a little bit of orange in it. And I think the reason that being is right now the crawdads got a lot of bright orange and red in their shells and on their tips. Now, I'm using a Zoom Speed Craw for a trailer, and I'm trying to use something. This is it's called Avocado, this one here. I'm trying to use something that's got a little bit of red flake in it. This is one that I just picked up that worked for me today. It's a green pumpkin with orange glitter, and that one seems to be working. And I'm just taking about a ½ inch off of the Speed Craw and putting it on the bait. And I'm throwing a ½ ounce to 5/8 on the bait caster, fishing out to about 25 foot. If I go much deeper than that, I'll use a 3/4 ounce. And if you're throwing it on a spinning rod, use the same jig, but a 3/8 ounce. I'm fishing this on a lot of the main lake points where I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of current in the lake. These fish they seem to be right on the point or on the dam side is where I seem to be doing the best. And the same with the drop shot fish, they're in the same area. A lot of times if I've got the boat setting in 25 to 30, casting the jig in, and I start seeing some fish underneath me, then I'll pick up the drop shot. And the drop shot worms that have been working real well, I've got a buddy that's been playing around making a lot of different baits. That's mainly what I've been throwing. But they're like little reefer grubs. They're 3.5 inch. I've been using them on the drop shot. But the chompers, 4 inch will work as well. The brown and purple lamb. Another one that Zoom has come out with, it's called a Z-drop worm. Now this one's been working. A lot of the colors that have been working good is the watermelon candy, And this plum always works well too. This is called a morning dawn, but this is like a little crosstail. It's a 4-inch, it's like just a little under 4 inches, but it's been working real well. And a lot of Kentuckys with a few smallmouths. The bigger fish has still been hard to come by. The weights this past weekend, I think it only took 15 pounds to win, which is pretty low. But you can catch a lot of 2-pound fish right now. Between the Carolina rig, football jig, drop shot, and the topwater on and off. So until next week, good luck, good fishing.